Jai Hind everyone. So my name is Ritika Dhyani. I work as an assistant professor in AKGEC. My today's video lecture is on the topic process management, where I've been discussing the basics of a process, its attributes, process state diagram, and different operations that can be done on a process. So moving on to the what is a process. In an operating system, a process is an instance of a program in execution. Process is a program in execution, which means any program that is assigned a CPU and is in a running state is running in the CPU, then that program is known as a process. It is a basic unit of work that can be scheduled and executed by the operating system. Moving on to the attributes of the process. So, the attributes of a process are used by operating system to create the PCB for each of them. When a new process is created, process control block is also created for that particular process, which contains all the information regarding the particular process. This is also known as the context of the process. PCB is also known as the context of the process because it is containing all the informations regarding the process. Attributes which are stored in the PCB is first one, when a new process is created, it is assigned a ID which is unique and used for identification of a process in the system. As let's say there is a job 1. So this job is given P1. So this is the process ID. It will be known as P1 when it comes to the CPU. Next information is the program counter that is stored in the PCB. Program counter stores the address of last instruction of the process on which the process was suspended. The CPU uses this address when the execution of process is resumed. So basically it stores the last instruction because sometimes it happens that a process gets interrupted in between because of any reason, like a high priority process comes to CPU. So in that case, low priority process get interrupted. So the state of the process needs to be stored somewhere so that when this low priority process again gets the CPU, it will resume its working from the last instruction executed. So this information is stored in program counter. Next is your process state. As the process is created, it goes through various states which are new, ready, running, waiting. We will discuss about them in the next slide. Next one is the priority. Every process has its own priority. The process with the highest priority among the processes gets the CPU first. This is also stored in the PCB. Next is general purpose register. Every process has its own set of registers which are used to hold the data which is generated during the execution of the process. So let's say a process is having a variable a equals to 5 and b equals to 7. So these values must be stored somewhere. So these registers are those values, and when an operation is performed on these variables, then the results also get stored in some register. So this will contain the information regarding all these. Next is list of open files. During the execution, every process uses some files which needs to be present in the main memory. OS also maintains a list of open files in the PCB. So basically, when a process is in running state, the files it needs during its execution, it is also listed in the this attribute and stored in PCB. PCB stands for process control block. Next one is list of open devices. Similar to the open files, list of open devices contains the list of all the devices which are used during the execution of the particular process. All these 7 attributes are stored in the PCB of a process. Let's say we are having multiple processes P1, P2, P3 and so on. So P1 is having its own PCB which contains all these 7 attributes regarding to this particular process. Similarly, P2 is also having its own PCB which contains the information regarding this particular process. Moving on to the process state diagram. Let's see here. First of all, when a process is created, its state is new. When the process is created. At this particular time, long-term scheduler brings this particular process to the ready state, to ready queue, where the state of the process gets changed and now it becomes the ready state. Again, when the process is given the CPU, its states get changed to running state or run. Here, what happens? Let's say we are having different processes P1, P2, P3. Then which process will be getting the CPU first is decided by the short-term scheduler. Short-term scheduler. So this is how the process gets the CPU. When the CPU is running a particular process, let's say it in time sharing or in multitasking operating system, we have discussed a word timestamp, where the CPU is given for a particular time to a particular process. So when this timestamp or time quantum gets expired, or when another high priority process comes to the ready queue, then this low priority process needs to be removed from the CPU, then it gets back to the ready state again. Let's say no interruption is there, then in that case, if P1 requires input output device for its execution, what will happen? It will request for IO and waits in wait block. So in this state, the process is waiting for its execution for any input output device. Once it completes or successfully executed its input output operation, then it comes back to the ready queue for the again the getting the CPU. Here, after getting the CPU, let's say the process P1 is totally completed. It's executed its CPU time as well as IO time. Then it gets terminated and its state changes to this particular state. When the P1 is waiting here, let's say many processes came to this particular state queue. Here, we are having multiple processes. So all the low priority process or the processes which request for a particular device which is held by the another process, then all these processes get suspended and comes to this particular state. This state resides in secondary memory. From this suspend wait state, if the process completed the IO but still in suspend, then it gets to suspend ready state, where it waits for a particular time till the ready queue is having some amount of space left. And if the process in suspend wait state does not completed its IO request, then after some time when this particular state or queue gets some space, the process will resume its execution and gets completed. So this is how the whole process states change while the execution. Let's discuss all the states one by one. So the first state is new state. It is a program which is going to be picked up by the operating system into the main memory is called a new process. Second is ready state. When a process is created, it directly enters in the ready state in which it waits for the CPU to be assigned. Here we have seen because all these processes are ready to be assigned CPU. So this is the ready state which I am talking here. The OS picks the new process from the secondary memory and pull all of them in the main memory. The processes which are ready for the execution and reside in the main memory are called ready state processes. There can be many processes present in the ready state, which I have discussed here. Next state is the running state. Running state, once the process gets chosen from the ready state, it will be assigned the CPU. It comes to the running state. If we have only one CPU in our system, the number of running processes for a particular time will always be 1. If we have n number of processes, then we can say we have n processes running simultaneously. Next state is block or wait state. From the running state, a process can make transition to the block or wait state depending upon the scheduling algorithm or intrinsic behavior of the process. Intrinsic behavior here states the input-output request for a particular process. When a process waits for a certain resource to be assigned or for the input from the user, then the OS moves this process to the block or wait state and assign the CPU to other process. As we see here, when this particular process is having some IO request, then this process is removed from the CPU and it goes to the wait or block state. And another process is assigned the CPU. Next is completion or termination state. When a process finishes its execution, that means its IO request, its CPU time and all, it comes in the termination state. All the context of the process, that is process control block, all the 7 attributes that we have discussed so far will also be deleted for the process that will terminated by the operating system. Next one is suspend ready. A process in the ready state which is moved to secondary memory from the main memory due to lack of resources, mainly primary memory, is called the suspend ready state. Here we have discussed the suspend, wait and ready state. What happens here when this particular queue gets full or this particular queue gets full, then all the low priority processes move to the suspend ready or suspend wait depending upon the conditions. So here, if the main memory is full and a higher priority process comes for the execution, then the OS have to make the room for the process in the main memory by throwing the lower priority process out in the secondary memory. The suspend ready process remains in secondary memory until the main memory gets available. Until the ready queue gets available, the process resides in main secondary memory. Last one is suspend wait. Instead of removing the process from the ready queue, it's better to remove the blocked process which is waiting for some resource in the main memory. Resource here is some IO request. Process is having some IO request and this request is not fulfilled at the particular time, or this process have to wait for some time to get its request fulfilled. At that particular time, the wait queue is getting full, so we move the processes from wait to suspend wait. Since it is already waiting for some resources to get available, hence it is better if it waits in the secondary memory and make room for the high priority process. These processes complete their execution once the main memory gets available and their wait is finished. Next topic is operations on the process. So the first is creation. Once the process is created, it will be ready and comes into the ready queue and will be ready for the execution. So the first operation that can be done on a process is the creation of the process, where the state of a process is new. This new state defines that the process is created and now it is ready to come to ready queue. Next is scheduling. Out of the many processes present in the ready queue, the operating system chose one process and start executing it. Selecting the process which is to be executed next is known as scheduling. We are having multiple processes in ready queue. On the basis of some scheduling algorithm, we have FCFS, or we have shortest job first, shortest remaining time first, and so on, round robin. On the basis of some scheduling algorithm, operating system decides this which job is to be getting the CPU next. So this is one of the operation done on the process. Next one is the execution. Once the process is scheduled for the execution, the process starts executing it. Processor starts executing it. Process may come to block or wait state during the execution. Then in that case, the processor starts executing the other process. So execution of a process is the operation that is done on a process by the operating system. So execution means the process is in running state. We have already discussed the running state in the process state diagram. Last one is deletion and killing. Once the purpose of a process gets over, then the operating system will kill the process. The context of the process, that means the process control block or PCB, will be deleted and the process gets terminated by the operating system. So once the process fulfilled its execution or its task completely, it gets to deleted, and we call this operation as state terminated state. And once the state state in PCB process state is terminated, then this particular PCB is deleted from the main memory along with the process. That is how the whole process management works. Moving on to the different type of schedulers. So the first one is long-term scheduler. Long-term scheduler is also known as job scheduler. It chooses the process from the pool, secondary memory, where it is getting created and keeps them in the ready queue maintained in the primary memory. So long-term scheduler comes into play from this to this state. Here the LTS is working. Long-term scheduler mainly controls the degree of multi-programming. The purpose of long-term scheduler is to choose a perfect mix of IO-bound and CPU-bound processes among the jobs present in the pool. What is this IO-bound and CPU-bound processes? CPU-bound process means the CPU time. How much time this particular process needs the CPU is known as the CPU time, and the processes having the larger CPU time is known as the CPU bound processes. Similarly, if the process is having some IO request, then for how much time the IO device is needed by this process is known as IO time, and the processes having the larger IO time is known as IO bound processes. If the job scheduler chooses more IO bound processes, then all the jobs may reside in the block state all the time and the CPU will remain idle most of the time. This will reduce the degree of multi-programming. So, the job of long-term scheduler is very critical and may affect the system for a very long time. So, the main task of long-term scheduler is to create a balance between the CPU bound processes and the IO bound processes so that the performance of the system doesn't get affected. Next is your short-term scheduler. Short-term scheduler is also known as CPU scheduler. It comes under play when we need to move the job from ready to running state. Here, short-term scheduler comes into play. It selects which job needs to get CPU next. It selects one of the job from the ready queue and dispatch to the CPU for the execution. A scheduling algorithm is used to select which job is going to be dispatched for the execution. The job of a short-term scheduler can be very critical in the sense that if it selects job whose CPU burst time or CPU time is very high, then all the jobs after that will have to wait in the ready queue for a long time. This problem is called starvation, which may arise if the short-term scheduler makes some mistakes while selecting the job. Starvation problem is nothing but when the job is waiting for a very long time to get the CPU, then this particular process gets starved for a long time, and the problem is known as starvation problem. Last one is your medium term scheduler, or we can say mid-term scheduler. It comes under play when we need to move the jobs from wait or block state to suspend wait. Here MTS, mid-term scheduler, is working. Also, mid-term scheduler is working when we need to move the jobs from ready queue to suspend ready state. Midterm scheduler takes care of the swapped out processes. If the running state processor needs some IO time for the completion, then there is need to change its states from running to waiting. Here, right? Midterm scheduler is used for this purpose. It removes the process from the running state to make a room for other processes. Such processes are swapped out processes, and this procedure is known as the swapping. Midterm scheduler is responsible for suspending and resuming the processes. It reduces the degree of multi-programming. Swapping is necessary to have a perfect mix of processes in the ready queue. Thank you.